This screencast is going to talk about the physiology, the biology behind skin color. So we're going to talk about skin color. The first thing that we need to talk about is the melanocyte. Melanocytes are specialized cells that are found deep within the epidermis. And this is a melanocyte here. You can see it has arms or processes that kind of come up and are going to move to this or go up, project towards the more superficial layers of the epidermis. We all have approximately the same number of melanocytes no matter what skin color we have. However, we have different numbers of melanosomes within each melanocyte. Melanosomes are specialized organelles that are found within the melanocytes. So you can see they're represented by little dots inside here. They're going to produce a pigment that is called melanin. Melanin is a pigment that means dark or black in Greek. The name melanin means dark or black. And this pigment itself is transmitted to the keratinocytes, so to the upper, harder layers of the cells of the skin up here, through these long extensions or processes that I mentioned before. Eumelanin is responsible for black and brown color of skin. So these are black and brown pigments, and eumelanin is more protective against UV radiation. That's why you'll find, ancestrally speaking, that darker skinned people originate from near the equator, where the sun is stronger and there is more UV radiation. Pheomelanin is responsible for pink, yellow, and red coloring. It's not very protective against UV radiation, and that's why you will find it in people whose ancestors originated outside of the equator area, so more north and more south, closer to the poles. So skin color is determined firstly by genetics. Genetics determine the number of melanosomes you have, the type of melanin you have, and the amount of melanin that is produced. So the more melanosomes you have, the more melanin can be produced, and it depends, again, which type of melanin, eumelanin or pheomelanin, which tones or which colors of skin you will have. Albinism is a condition in which little or no melanin is produced. It can affect all races. It affects your hair, your skin, your eyes even, and so it means that little or no melanin is produced, and so you have no pigment. Vitiligo is when the skin loses melanocytes. This can be because the melanocytes die or because they stop producing melanin. It usually begins between the ages of 20 to 30, and it's usually symmetrical, as seen in Winnie Harlow, who's in this picture. The causes of this are not fully understood, but it's thought that it's caused by immune disorder, genetics, and then some sort of triggering event like a sunburn, a stress, or industrial chemicals. So where albinism, you weren't producing melanin ever. Vitiligo, your skin cells used to produce melanin, and now they don't produce it anymore. Freckles are concentrated melanin. Their underlying cause is genetics, but then because of the sun, freckles darken, and so it brings out the freckles or the dark areas of melanin in our skin, and then freckles will disappear usually in winter, or they'll get lighter in winter. Moles are simply raised freckles, so it's when melanocytes grow in clusters instead of spreading flat throughout the skin. Tanning is a protective mechanism against the sun. So while many people think that it looks nicer to be tan, you're actually causing your body to protect yourself because it does not want to get hurt. So UV radiation increases, which causes melanin to increase. Melanin, again, is protective, and it usually absorbs the UV radiation from getting to the DNA within the nucleus of our skin cells. And so melanin absorbs that UV radiation, and so as you get tan, or as you go in the sun, you get tan because your body is producing more melanin in order to protect yourself against the UV radiation. There is one main benefit of sun exposure, and that is that vitamin D production increases. So this is very beneficial because we need vitamin D for lots of different things, including, most famously, probably bone health. Sunburn is an acute inflammatory reaction, so it happens just for a short period of time, comes on suddenly as a response to the sun. What happens is skin cells are injured, and then you have cells called mast cells that are going to release chemicals that are going to come and inflame your skin so that it can heal it. Vasodilation is the increased diameter of your blood vessels in order to increase blood flow to the area to bring all the things that your body needs to heal the injured cells, and this results in red skin. There are 3 levels of burns in general, but specifically in this case, sunburns. So first degree burns result in red skin and just the outer layer of the epidermis. Second degree burns will blister and now take longer to heal. Third degree burns are tough to get from the sun. You usually get them from other causes, but these are all layers all the way, so you're talking the epidermis, the dermis, all the way down to the fat in the hypodermis. They result in nerve damage and can actually be life-threatening. Speaking of threats because of the sun, we have skin cancer. So as I previously mentioned, UV radiation can lead to mutations in the DNA of the skin cells. If the DNA of the skin cells is mutated, it can result in rapid uncontrolled growth of abnormal skin cells, which is known as skin cancer. There are 2 main types of skin cancer. We have carcinomas and melanomas. Carcinomas are more common and they're less dangerous, though they're still not good, but they are the ones that you are more likely to recover from. You have basal cell carcinomas, which are found in the stratum basal layer of the skin, and you have squamous cell carcinoma. Next, we have melanomas. Melanomas are less common, but they are more serious. They can be fatal, and they can metastasize or spread throughout the body. In women, they usually start on the legs. In men, they usually start in the trunk, but they can also appear in the face and neck like carcinomas. When we're talking about skin cancer, earlier is better. So when we're talking about earlier, we're talking about preventing the damage in the first place. So doing things like wearing suntan lotion, wearing a hat in the sun, wearing protective clothing, sitting under an umbrella, not going out when it's really, really hot and bright and the UV index is really high. So preventing skin cancer, skin damage in the first place. Nextly, we have early detection. We'll talk about that in another minute. And then early treatment. If we can treat it early, we can usually catch it, and it's not as big of a problem as if we don't treat it early. So dermatologist visits are really important. This is important for regular skin checks, as well as, and in having regular skin checks, you're able to see anything that might be concerning. Specifically, dermatologists are going to look at moles and see if they show any of these 5 indicators that they could be cancerous. So asymmetry, if one half of the mole doesn't match the other half. If the border is ragged or blurred or irregular, not smooth. If the color isn't the same throughout, or it has non-skin color shades of different colors. If the diameter is larger than the eraser of a pencil, or if the mole changes in size, shape, or color. And so it's important to notice these things on yourself, as well as go to the dermatologist so they can track these. Other changes to skin color, ones that are not necessarily dangerous but could be, your skin gets pink if you have a light complexion. And that is pink because it's well oxygenated. The blood is right there underneath your surface and it's carrying a lot of oxygen. On the opposite end, if you have low oxygen levels, this can cause a blue tint to your skin called cyanosis. And liver disease can produce yellowish tones called jaundice. We also have something that's not super common, but diets that are high in yellow or orange vegetables that contain a lot of carotene can actually give a yellow or orange-yellow tint to the skin. What happens is that carotene accumulates in the stratum corneum, which is the most superficial layer of the skin, as well as in the adipose or the fat found in the dermis and the hypodermis. So there you have an overview of what produces our skin color, as well as changes to our skin color through environmental factors.